No, I appreciate you guys having me, man. I really do. I have a great history with Rip, and so just to have this opportunity, I really do appreciate it.
That's awesome. We were actually talking to open up our own show today about the Iron Claw, the movie on the Von Erichs. Have you seen that yet?
I have not, and look, I mean, I'm not sure that I will,
Yep.
my reasons is, we lived it back in the day. We were wrestling in the territory days, and so even if you weren't there, you still lived it from a different territory, and so it's just the to see all the trailers and all that stuff. I cannot begin to tell you how relatable all that is to me and my brothers, and I when I talked to Road Dogg the other day, I said, "Hey, I'm not sure I'll go see that." I
Yep.
said, "That's just, we lost Brad about 10 or 11 years ago, and so it just has so many triggers for me to not. I want it to have a happy ending, but I
Yep.
know the ending, and it's not happy to me."
We were actually
And
discussing that same
yeah, and so
thing.
my brother, he said the same thing. He said, I'm not sure if I'll see it either. He said, but I get where you're coming from, because that's what he asked me. He said, "Do you think you'll go see it?" And I said, I just look, maybe sitting when I can sit by myself in my house and I can flip it on TV, I might watch it. I don't know. It's just, um, I don't know. I just relate to it so much. And it was so sad as it was happening in real time back in the day. And then to see it come back to life. And I saw Bruce Pritchard do a promo or say something where he literally brought up the fact, hey, this isn't a wrestling movie. So
Yeah.
don't go thinking you're going to see a wrestling movie. This is a drama.
Right.
And I, again, we lived the drama back in the day. And it was just, look, his dad was a go-getter, or their dad was a go-getter. Our dad was a go-getter. Their mom, I never got to meet the lady, but always heard sweet as she could be. And that was our mom. Same. It was just such a comparison to the family of all boys in Texas, and then all the boys in Pensacola, here with our dad. And so I don't know. I probably won't. I mean, that's my long answer to get to no. I'm probably not going to watch.
What a horrible question to start the show with. We were just
funny.
discussing the families too. Like, it just brought up to us like the Armstrongs, the Von Erichs, like famous wrestling families. And, like who was more famous, or is there another family to throw in there? Just,
oh man, the Hart family out of Canada.
Yep.
I mean, look, the Samoans, probably the biggest dynasty, biggest money drawing family in the history of wrestling, and probably will be that way going forward for a long, long time. So, look, it's cool to have been a part of one of them. You know what I mean? I enjoyed it.
Well, you said we'll get back to you and Rip. Then you said you and Rip went back a long way. Was WCW the first time you guys met, or was it before that?
No, it was.
No, I worked for his dad in Southeastern in 1980, 83. Started in 83.
Yeah,
and that's when you was the Rat Patrol, right?
Yes, I was literally having my first matches then.
Yeah, which was Johnny Rich. There's the R, Armstrong, the A,
Yep.
and then Tonga Kid, who's one of the Samoans. So he was, because I don't know, he was a teenager there.
Yes, he was 17. He would get checked out of school. We'd have to leave. We all lived in around Pensacola Beach,
right?
And so we'd have that 4-hour drive every Monday to Birmingham, and he would have to get checked out of high school to make Birmingham. Yes, and nobody knew he was 17 years old tearing the house down in the main event every night.
Yeah, when we was in Pensacola, or Pensacola territory, we lived at one of you guys' apartments.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Brad. I think it was Brad's condo.
Yeah. Because then he lived, I think, Buffalo Head. Was he with Buffalo Head?
No, Arn was.
Arn was. Okay, because Arn was always talking Buffalo Head, Because I'd be driving the orange van and have all the heels packed in there.
It's so funny. Back in those days, you had Miss Brenda was with you,
mm-hmm.
and I don't know that I ever told you this, Rip, but the last time I saw you, I was going to tell you and totally forgot. My dad, Brenda was such, to me and my brothers, just so sweet and kind. Look, she may have been a demon on wheels with you, but with but me and my brothers, we were just young boys. I was 22 years old.
Right.
And so she treated us like young boys, just sweet, very, kind of motherly. And so it had gotten to the point, our dad had seen how much we all respected her in the locker room or wherever we were. And my dad would use it, like if we started acting a fool after the show or something, he'd go, well, you wouldn't say that in front of Miss Brenda, would you?
Oh, God.
We'd just start laughing every time. It'd make us shut our mouths, but we'd start laughing every time. No, I wouldn't say it in front of Miss Brenda.
She always had a gun on her.
Did she really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Oh, hell yeah.
See how sweet she was?
I'm glad I loved her.
Oh, golly.
So what do you remember from Rip back then? Give us some Rip Rogers stories from your youngest days, if you can remember any.
So he came in, and the first thing I did, look, back in those days, I was so excited I was going to get to wrestle that night. It was unbelievable. But then once, territory days, you worked 6 nights a week, and a lot of times with the same person through the entire week and in front of the same people every week that were buying tickets. And so I started watching Rip because he got a reaction in all of his matches. And whether when he walked out, if they weren't paying attention to him, he'd say, "Shut your mouth." And here they came. And so I had been broken in, like Rip was saying, Rat Patrol, we did the tag team Freebird type stuff. And so it was tag team, and it was Southern spots in a 16-foot ring. So it was bing, 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 bing. And I didn't understand the art of the work. And that's what Rip, by this time, Rip had mastered it. And I didn't know anything about it. And I'll never, he knows every time we talk, I say a good bicep will take you a long way in this business, because that's what Rip used to. The first time you ever said it to me, Rip, we were in the ring working with each other, and the people weren't, they were there, but they weren't there like you wanted them. And you turned around and just hit a bicep shot, and they booed the hell out of you. And you looked right back at me and said, "Good bicep gets them every time." And I just in the ring, you start laughing, and we have our match. And then you stuck to that. But so that later in our, in both our careers, and we end up back in the locker room together for WCW, I'll never forget you telling one of the other younger guys that was saying, "Man, I don't know what I should do." And you said, "Well, you got good biceps, just hit a bicep shot." You looked over at me, I just laughing. I said, "Hell yes, buddy, hit that bicep shot." But Rip taught me to slow down, let the people see what you're doing. Don't rush. To me, at that time in my career, I wanted to back Rip up in the corner and hit him 15 times. And the only one Rip could sell was the last one. So why not just hit him with one and back away and let him act like it was the toughest punch in the history of man? And so I didn't get all that. I was 22, man. I wanted to go balls to the wall nonstop. And he slowed me down. And I'll never forget in the car coming home one night, me and Brad, Steve, and our dad. And he said, "Scotty, did you learn anything tonight, boy?" And I said, "Yeah, slow down and let Rip do the show." Because that's what he could do. And that's literally, if Rip said to me after many matches, "If you'll just sell and slow down, we'll just have a barn burner every night." And look, it took a while, but it finally sunk in, and we did. We had great matches. And plus, look, when we had Miss Brenda out there too, man, it just made it so easy. Her timing on everything was phenomenal. Her and Rip worked great together, knew when to do what. And, for a young punk coming in and trying to learn literally a different style, because now I'm going to sell and I'm going to let Rip literally control. He was the maestro. He was going to control the people. And that's what I didn't understand yet when I first started working with him. And then, and that's at the end of it, I told my dad, I said, he's a maestro, because he could stand in front of the people. And come up, come up, come up, go down. And that's what they would do. And man, it was fun. A lot of fun.
That's great.
You know what's funny, Scotty, is Brenda had never worked before when we got there.
Really?
No, she was a stripper for how many years?
So she had good timing.
Yeah, it was all, she said, oh, it's the same thing, you know? So no, she used to have to you do so many songs. It was a 22 minutes. She'd do a 22 minutes. She was a road girl. Then she'd go 22 minutes of this song, this one's upbeat, this one's seduction, this one's whatever. And then you fucking have your climax, and then the next girl comes on. And she said, wrestling's the same thing.
Yeah, it is.
She said, I'll just listen to you and do as I'm told, then I'll eventually figure it out. So it didn't take too long.
No, she was with it, man. God dang, she was with it.
And when the second time I come down there and was in with Continental, me and Adrian shot that angle the first night in. And then I worked 26 weeks in a row with him.
With him. Y'all had
right. And then I left.
Wow.
I said, I'm leaving. They said, what? I said, man, I ain't going to follow that act. I'm not going to follow that. And I was strictly, it wasn't the money. It was the art of learning something I could take elsewhere and learn some more shit.
Yeah. And 26 weeks and 26 weeks in front of the same people.
And we never had prearranged bullshit lined up. Yeah. We just play off each other. It was so much fun. And your dad was so good to me. When I was leaving, I finished up. I worked 10 weeks with Austin Idol. I had 8 planned, and Fuller said, can you get 2 more weeks? I said, yeah, well, I'll write this shit down and you figure it out and juggle it how you want to. So I was making the trips from Atlanta the last 2 weeks coming in. So I just had, and it was so funny, all in that territory with Fuller's and your dad, Jimmy Golden. No, I never heard anybody raise their voice about anything.
Yeah, I think they did that in their little production meetings.
I think so too, because they're all human. But I was growing up with Randy Savage getting yelled and screamed at, and every other word was motherfucker, right?
Oh.
and then I went to Ole, and Ole was the same thing. But your dad, he says, hey, he said, I talked to Ole Anderson. Ole Anderson called me up because of your dad, right? Oh. And Ole said, hey, Bob Armstrong called me. And that was when he had lost the TV, and I went over for the championship wrestling from Georgia thing, you know?
Uh-huh.
And he said, he told me you could do, Bob Armstrong told me he could do anything. So can you come in and work for me? He said, I'm going to make you a temporary tag team champion with Ted Oates. I said, I know who he is. Do I know him? No. But I said, but your dad I didn't even have to call to get a job. Your dad had set it up already.
Wow.
And to get the recommendation from Bullet Bob Armstrong in the South was, you couldn't get any better than that.
I appreciate you telling me that story, Rip. I never knew that. That's awesome.
Then I remember working with your brother Brad the first time, and I tested him with everything. Never said a word. And he was always in a fighting stance. No matter, I'd turn my back just to see what he stayed babyface. I was testing him on everything, right? If I was too close, too far away, whatever the thing was, he did everything fucking perfect. And like we would just tie up. And if I didn't tie up, and if we're still struggling for 30 seconds, he still wasn't just grabbing the hook. I didn't tell him to, right?
Right.
He just was going to do what I told him to.
Yeah.
And so we'd be pivoting around, and I'd stop on a dime. And as soon as I'd stop, he'd stop fighting stance, always facing me. And then hands, not fist, but open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was the ultimate baby face, and I'm just laughing during the match. He said, what are you laughing at? I said, I tried every shortcut trick to fuck you up. And you was just too motherfucking good. You are fucking great. And I just said, if anybody in the wrestling business, if you could just go around working with any of the Armstrong family, because you're all the same,
I appreciate that.
It's a night off, you know.
I appreciate that. You know, it's funny, Rip, to hear you saying I was calling because it's changed so much. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I know that's the way we were raised in the business was, boy, you're babyface. Don't you open your mouth. You listen to him and do everything he tells you.
Yeah.
And man, that is a lost art. I wish that was still around today.
Well, I still teach. That's the only thing I know, but that's the way I teach guys. They all have an hour Broadway, some guys 2-hour Broadways. But the thing about it is, I said, now you go out there in the real world of wrestling, forget everything I told you and do as you're told. But if the ring breaks, something breaks down, somebody don't show up, you'll know how to you're overly qualified for this job.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is all that helps in today's wrestling. That's for sure.
It's kind of a generic question, but did you always know you were going to get into wrestling? I know you came from a wrestling family, but sometimes there is somebody that doesn't want to get into it. Did you always know from day one, from when you could remember?
Yes, I did. So, I mean, even as a little kid, look, as long as I can remember anything in my life, my dad was a wrestler. You know what I mean? That you go back to people go, I remember when I was 3. Well, bull. I don't believe that. But as long as I can remember doing anything in my life, my dad was a wrestler. And so, growing up back then, 3 channels on TV. You know what I mean? And wrestling on TV was ding, ding, ding. This match is 1 fall. It was very drab. There was no ring music. There was no lighting.
Yeah.
A lot of times it was just one light over the ring. And so to me, to be able to see him on TV and be a little kid, that's larger than life. I want to do that. That was our superheroes back then, were the wrestlers, you know what I mean? Because you didn't have Marvel comics on every channel. And so to be able to watch him, and then I said it all growing up, yeah, I'm going to be a wrestler like my dad. And so I was skinny as a rail, and never really worked out with weights. But I still would tell everybody I was going to be a wrestler. And so once I got into high school, I still said it to everybody. I didn't play football. And all the football players go, oh, you're too skinny, man. You'll never be like your dad. Well, hey, man, I never stopped. I remember buying my first pair of wrestling boots from B&A, Bill Ash and his dad, and my dad coming in, and I was wearing them around the house to break them in, and I had never trained one time. I was willing it. I was willing it into fruition. And so I'll never forget my dad walking in and going, well, whose boots are those? And I said, they're mine. And he said, well, why did you get wrestling boots? And I said, because I'm going to wrestle. And he goes, no, you're not, boy. You're not going to wrestle. I was working at a bank as a bookkeeper and going to college. Oh, wow. And he said, no, you definitely are not going to wrestle. So you might can give those to somebody. Maybe they'll take them. Somebody's going to have to be initialed SA. And so literally it was probably a year after that before Tommy Rogers came into the territory. He came in as a single, came in just for 6 months, just to work the opening match or two. And he said, well, do you train? I told him, yeah, I'm going to be a wrestler. And so at this stage, I'm sure everybody thought this guy's really full of shit. And he goes, well, you want to ride with me? We're here in Pensacola on Sunday. We can get over there at 5 p.m. whenever they put the ring up, and we can wrestle for an hour. And Mobile's an hour away. On Tuesdays, we could wrestle for an hour. And I went, yes, I would love to. And about 8 weeks or really 4 weeks, but about 8 times of being able to get into a ring, Tommy walks in the locker room and tells my dad, Bob, I'll tell you, he's a natural. He's got a really good drop kick. Well, dude, I could not wait to get in the car with my dad on that ride, that hour drive back to Pensacola, to say, did you hear that, Dad? Tommy says I'm ready. I tell him, my dad just busts out laughing. He goes, boy, you've just gotten a ring 8 times. That's it. He said, I've never worked out with you. He said, Tommy said you had a good drop kick. He said, Tommy's not in the main event, son. Tommy's in the opening match. He said, you got to keep your feet on the ground here. And I said, no, I'm ready. Well, finally, I think it was my mom that said, hey, if you don't give him one chance, he's not going to just go away. He's our son. And so by this time, Brad had been wrestling like 2 years, 2.5 years. I mean, anywhere he was, I wanted to go and watch him and watch how he worked. And oh man, in my very, very first match, it was me and Brad, and we were wrestling Randy Rose and Dennis Condrey. No, take that back. I think Dennis was on the outside. It was Randy and Norvell Austin. And we're getting ready to walk out. First match ever. And I look at my dad and go, I'm nervous wreck. Needless to say, I said, Dad, you got anything? And he goes, yeah, just stand on the apron and watch your brother. And honestly, it was the best advice I've ever been given. That's exactly what I did. And he'd talk to me from the corner and say, hey, Scotty, why don't you just slide down and get a little schoolboy right there? He'd talk to me like we did at the house.
Yeah. And
so it made me relax so much, man. And all those dudes, they knew that I was peppering the shit out of them with stiff punches and Rip, I'm sure you remember, and they'd calm me down and say, hey, come on, relax, slow down.
So did your dad really not want you to get into wrestling, or was he just testing you, or he wants you to get an education, or
no,
he just want to see how bad you wanted it, or what
when I started, I was the oldest, so it was my choice to go to college. I wanted to go, and he was all about it. And then when he said, when I told him that I'd gotten a job at a bank, in the bookkeeping, I mean, literally nothing but numbers all day and going to college in the morning and then shooting straight to that bank to work all day. He just said, no, you're a money guy. Learn the money. I mean, look, like any wrestler tell you, hey kid, save your money. And that's what he said. Because I asked him later in life too. And he said, no, I just thought you had a good head and you were going to college and you knew numbers and you were good at it. He said, I kept waiting. You see, you started in there and you were in there 3 or 4 months. And I kept waiting for you to call and say, well, they fired me. He said, but they didn't. And you were there for a couple of years and you started working your way up. And I knew what this involved. This involved injuries and not being at home and away from family. And I heard what he was saying. But I was 22, man, when I started. You can't tell a 22-year-old kid you can't. You know what I mean? Because the 22-year-old kid just proved to you he can, just to stick it up your ass. You know what I mean? But I just wanted to do it, man. It was my life. Even to this day, like now I work with a little group that, they're getting bigger. They just got a little TV here in Mobile, but it's out of Mobile, Alabama, called Diamond Championship Wrestling. So even when I got, completely out of sight of everybody seeing what I was doing all the time with WWE or whether it been WCW, whatever, I'm right back in the middle of it. And these guys have a TV show, and I told my wife the other day, I said, it's crazy that I've done this for 40 years. It was 1983, like you said, and 40 years later, and it still puts, food on the table. Not like I needed it at that time. Holy crud, man. Me and Arn were roommates for about 1.5 years beforehand. And he would say all the time, my God, man, we got $8 left and we get paid tonight. And so in other words, if we had any money left by the end of the week before the next paycheck, it was like a huge victory because we lived like rock stars. My God, man, it was unreal. We thought we were rock stars anyway.
So you guys lived together?
Me and Arn did for about 1.5 years. Yeah.
We actually got a super chat question here for you. It said, how hard did your dad laugh while telling you the story of a young Marty Lundy hair-raising debut against him?
I saw that. I actually saw that. Yes, he took Marty Lundy took a karate chop from my dad, and my dad went to hold his hair and chop him. And back then Arn was really self-conscious about his hair, and he had a toupee. And the toupee came flying off. And
that's the hair-raising debut then.
Yes, I think Charlie Platt was the announcer, either him or Rick Stewart, but one of them even said, boy, Bob's really scalping them today here on Southeastern Wrestling. Yeah, Arn came back. He was rookie at the time. He came back apologizing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And my dad said, well, are you okay? He was more embarrassed than anything, bless his heart.
That is wild. I didn't know that. So Brad, then did Brad just get right into wrestling then?
Brad started
because you said you were the oldest, right? And he was wrestling before you.
Yes, he in 80. No, take that back. 70. No, it was 80. My dad had the opportunity to come down here to Pensacola and buy into the company, and he took the chance, and he knew he was taking a chance because you don't know if a wrestling company is going to go or not, but he was a top baby face at the time, and he had faith in himself drawing money. The Fullers had been everything because their family is steeped in wrestling tradition, and uncles and grandfathers and great grandfathers, and so they could do anything. They could be a heel, they could be a baby face, but it ended up just being the perfect. My dad is a baby face and the Fullers as heels, and it was just the perfect chemistry. And then as we each grew up, Brad was 18. So Brad, 18 years old, 3 weeks out of graduating high school, he's working at a little grocery store in Gulf Breeze, Florida called Jitney Jungle. And my dad happens to walk in there to get something and sees Brad and goes, hey, Brad, so-and-so. Brad's stocking shelves on his knees. And the manager says, sir, could I help you with something? And he goes, oh, no. My dad goes, no, I'm good. And he goes, Brad, come on, get off your butt. Let's get this going, man. Starts giving Brad crap. And my dad just stopped dead center and looked at him and said, hey, Brad, tell this asshole you quit. And Brad went, oh, Dad, that's my boss. And he said, tell him you quit right now. The next time he sees you, it'll be on television or he can buy a ticket. Let's go. And he went, Dad, I'm working. He goes, give him his apron back. And Brad took the apron off and handed it to him. And Dad said, now get your ass to work, and walked right back out the door. It really just flew. I think it flew all over my dad simply because he was the one that made Brad stop what he was doing. You know what I mean? And he got pissed when the guy disrespected him. And so literally July 4th, 81, I think was Brad's first match. And look, when you break in and your first matches are with your dad, who had a storied career already, or they were working against Dennis Condrey and Norvell Austin and Randy Rose. And I mean, man, Dennis Condrey, you say that name and you know already, just one of the best that's ever lived. And Brad at 18 literally got in the ring with my dad before the show one time, and then became, one of the, as Flair says, one of the top 5 baby faces I ever got in the ring with in my career. And that's saying something, man. And that's what Brad did. Got in there one time, and with my dad showed him a few things. And then that night he's in the ring semi-main event in the tag with Dennis Condrey, Randy Rose, and Norvell Austin. So he had great teachers. And what people don't understand in today's wrestling is like we opened the show and I said, Rip taught me. And that's how it was. I could understand as Rip led me through a match and then did it night after night after night. He was literally teaching me, this is a really tried and true perspective on what will work in front of people. And, when you're 22, you don't realize any of that, especially the first few times you work with somebody. And then you start realizing, oh, you know what I mean? Little things, the light bulb going off. Oh, he does it this way because of this, or he does that. And you get to learn. And that's what, and like I said, we were told, don't open your mouth, boy, shut your mouth. And that's what we did. I did it with Rip. I mean, Brad did it with Condrey and Rose and Norvell. And look, people that don't know Norvell Austin, one of the best black athletes in the history of wrestling, and does not get mentioned enough. And phenomenal with the Monroe brothers back in the day. He was their free bird. The two old white dudes with the jet black hair and the white puff right in the front of the hair. And there's Norvell, a black man with a black afro with a white puff right in the front of his dude. It was money. It was, man. They were heels, man. And they were
Coco, PYT Express, baby.
Yeah.
But back to your
Yeah.
point, Rip says that all the time about that's how you learn. That's how he learned. He just shut up and listened to the old guys, and
That's true. It's
that's
very true.
I'm not sure
Dude,
that.
when they hired me to be a referee with WWE, John Laurinaitis took me aside my very first day and he goes, "Look, you've already had an entire 20 something years of wrestling. Now you're going to get another 8 or 10 as a referee." He said, "But these kids you're getting in the ring with and refereeing, even though they're at this level, they've only had a very few years in the business. You've had 20 plus." He said, "When they're in the ring, coach them on these live events. Coach them. Tell them stay there. Tell them don't get up yet. Tell them." Well, dude, one night, so they brought me in the lowest, whatever, their ECW. They were trying to redo that, and it wasn't going as I think they had hoped it would go. But it was another brand that they could push, and all of a sudden one night, and we were branded referees, and all of a sudden one night, Natalia and Victoria have a match, and the SmackDown referee didn't show up for the live event. So I said, "Hey, I can do it. I know I'm not supposed to." And they said, "Yeah, here's a SmackDown shirt." I put it on, went out there. Look, I talked to those girls probably as much as I'd talk to anybody in any match ever. But they ended up having a heck of a match. And afterwards, I said, "Hey, thank y'all for letting me be a part. That was fun. I really enjoyed it." They said, "No, thank you. It was great." Well, I come to Monday Night Raw, or I'm sorry, we were doing SmackDown on Tuesday nights back then. We were taping it. And all of a sudden they said, "Laurinaitis wants you in his room, in his office." And I walk in there to his office, and there sits Natalia and Victoria. And I thought, "Oh, man, maybe that wasn't as good as I thought it was. Maybe they missed about something." And Johnny literally says, "Scotty, they said the match on the house show was phenomenal." I said, "It was. We had fun, right, girls?" And they said, "Oh, yeah." And he said, "All right, girls, leave me with Scotty." Dude, they had gone in there and put me over so strong. My money got doubled, and I immediately became a SmackDown ref. And they started using me to say, "Hey, what do you think of this? And what do you think?" Which eventually led to, after many years, then they used me as a producer to be able to go backstage, and then it becomes camera angles, and it's intense. that part of the job is very well, answering to Vince McMahon. That's intense, but the job was intense, and a lot of, hey man, you spend years of your life in hotel rooms and rent a cars and airplanes. Simple as that. You're doing what you love, but it's just a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, I just kind of wondered about like being an Armstrong, coming from such a family and being in it for so long, how that would transition, then going to the WWE that much later in your career, mostly as a referee in the beginning. I mean, what was that transition like to?
Well, so when WCW shut down, I'd been there 7 years and just doing jobs on TV, but a paycheck nonetheless. I always said my children they just wanted to eat, and the lady at the bank teller, when I walked in with that check for doing those jobs on TV, she never once said, "Oh no, you got beat on TV this week. I can't cash that." she said, "Oh, awesome. WWE, Ted Turner signed your check. Yeah, here you go. Here's the money." And so I never minded any of that. So I did it for 7 years. And then once that was over, they didn't pick me up. WWE, they picked up like 20 dudes and 3 referees. Well, I wasn't one of them. I wasn't one of the referees. And so I got a real job. I got a real job at a furniture store, and then I would work the indies every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and if there was a Sunday show, I'd do it too. But I'd work it every weekend. And at my furniture store, the guy would give me half a day Friday so that I could go to the town that night. And look, man, the wrestling business, you're 9/10 BSer. You know what I mean? And so that's what I did. And one day the owner of the furniture store walks in. I'm just moving a couch, and the lady starts talking about the couch, and I end up saying, "Oh, well, here, come sit on it." And I just BS with her. She buys the couch and walks out, and he turns to me and goes, "I'm going to build a store in Pensacola. It'll be about 20 minutes from here, and I want you to be the manager." And I went, "Dude, I don't know the first thing about furniture." And he goes, no, you don't understand. Selling furniture is selling yourself. And I just watched you in action. And I went, yeah, but she just wanted to sit up. I did everything I could do to go, I'm not your guy. And he said, no, I'm going to give you more money. I mean, it really worked out. But what happened, I was 40 years old. At 45, I'm managing this furniture store. I'm doing something I've never done before. I'm home every night eating dinner with my kids. I'm helping them with homework. I mean, I had become that guy, and I'd gotten to 40 and my kids were, 10 and 12 or whatever. And then all of a sudden, Umaga Eki, one of the Samoans, but he was Umaga for WWE and has passed away since. He walked into the furniture store in Pensacola and went, what are you doing here, man? And we start shooting the breeze. And before he walks out, he goes, hey, man, there's no Armstrong that's not supposed to be in the wrestling business. You got to come work with us up there in WWE. And I went, no, dude, I'm good. I'm home every night. I'm a dad now. I get to be home. And he goes, yeah, whatever. And he walks out the door. A month later, he walks back into that furniture store and hands me John Laurinaitis' card and says, hey, Johnny said, and I'd known Johnny from WCW because they had brought him in. He said, hey, Johnny said, give him a call. And I went, Eki, come on, dude. I'm good, man. Really? And he goes, is it not worth a phone call? And I went, no, you're right. I mean, I literally was still working the indies every weekend. And sure enough, I call Johnny and he goes, hey, man, Howard Finkel's going to give you a call. He didn't even say, hey, you want to come work? He just said, hey, Howard Finkel's going to give you a call in a couple of hours. He's going to give you your travel and hotels and we'll talk when you get there. And I went, we didn't talk about money. And I went, okay. And so I flew there and literally first day I said, look, dude, I got a job at home and I'm John Q. Public now. I'm a normal human being. And I've never been that. I said, so if we're not talking about something long-term here or something, I said, I'm already 45 years old and you're going to put me in front of a camera? Come on, man. And he goes, no, you're going to help us a lot. You just don't know it yet. And I went, okay. So we started talking money and look, the money was good. It was definitely more than I was making at the furniture store. Plus I didn't love the furniture store. I love wrestling. So I said, okay, I did it. And then 6 months later, this happens with the girls. And all of a sudden I'm on SmackDown. Next thing you know, SmackDown, Raw. When you main event WrestleMania, it just don't get no better. I'll never forget that Shawn Michaels saying, hey, man, walk out to that ring and they're going to be showing packages on the Tron. It's just going to be you and the announcer in the ring. He said, all the lights will be down. He said, I just want you to take one good deep breath and turn in a very slow circle and take all that in, what your entire career, what you've done all the way to this moment. And he said, you're going to thank me later. And dude, I couldn't wait to get back in the locker room afterwards and tell him, dude, it was like one of the coolest moments of my entire career was just take that deep breath. You're looking at 80,000 people in an open air stadium and seeing those, and then watch those two entrances and literally stand in the ring and go, how in God's earth did I end up standing right here, man? It's crazy. This business, man. I love it. I love it.
Rip says all the time, loves the wrestling business.
Yeah, what else would you do, Rip? What else would you do that would bring you this kind of joy, right?
Well, for me, there's not a better drug in the world than being around pro wrestling.
Yes.
And you get the highs and you get the lows. You love it, you hate it, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't change my mind on anything that I done in the ring.
Right. Not me either, man.
You work hard. It ain't. Randy Savage said it's not real when you win. It's not real when you lose. Just go out there and do your best and do what you're supposed to do. Do it to the best of your ability, and everything will work out all right.
That's right, man. So this group, Diamond Championship Wrestling, that's in Mobile, that's about an hour from me. And so they've got a place. They approached me about 2 weeks ago, as a matter of fact, and said, hey, they've been having guys come in and train their people. And they said, we would really like to have somebody that would like to train them that could be here all the time. It's an hour from my house. And so They said just train on Sundays and Tuesdays. And Rip, when they said Sunday and Tuesday, I swear I thought about Tommy Rogers, because that's when we trained, on Sunday and Tuesday. And I thought, man, so we talked money. And so I start January the 2nd on Tuesday as the head trainer for these guys, Diamond Championship Wrestling in Mobile. And it's going to be a lot of fun to be able to put my name on. Look, there'll be people I go, yeah, no, I've never seen that guy in my life. You know, and then there'll be people that can tear the house down. They go, oh yeah, it was one of my greatest accomplishments. And so I'm looking forward to it, man. I really am.
I'm going to write that down. You see, you could have given me that in that email today, and I could have put it on the
I wasn't
screen.
even thinking about it, Vaughn. I'm sorry, dude.
I could have put it on the screen right now, but I'll write it down. I'll get it when I clip some of this stuff up. I'll throw that in there.
Yeah, Diamond Championship Wrestling. They're literally in the process. They've leased an arena or a building, and they're gonna go in and just turn it into basically a TV studio. So, and I think the first show in there is like January 27th, I think. And so I'm really looking forward to that. They've contacted me about some of my, wrestling memorabilia that I have from my family that they want to put up inside there. It'll be a lot of fun to be a part of either way.
Hey, I actually have a question from a former WWE superstar that after I put this out the other day, he sent me a text and said to ask you about this. So my former partner from OVW was Rick Victor, Eric Thompson of the Ascension.
Yeah.
And he said to ask you, he said that you produced a lot of his matches and said, remind him of the Four Corners tag with Mark Henry and Swag versus Sandow and Fred versus the Dudleys versus the Ascension. He said, Mark tried to pin the wrong guy at the end while I was laying there right beside him. Do you recall any of that by chance?
Yes, because look, you can imagine if you're producing that match, all the people you just read off.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get it all. Where will this happen? I got to make sure, because look, you're sitting in the back with a headset on, and Vince McMahon's sitting 4 feet from you. Kevin Dunn's on your headset. Every cameraman can hear what you're saying, and you're trying to get the perfect shot so that somebody coming off the ropes will look like they're diving into your living room. You're trying to think, and that's only after you've spent all day with all that talent trying to set everything up just right for it to only end with, oh wait, I pinned the wrong guy. That's just one of those things in the business, man, that at the time, Vince would go, what the hell? First he'd say, whose match is this? Scott Armstrong. Scott, what the hell was that? So, well, it's not quite how we laid it out, sir, but yeah, man. Hey, look, Victor and what was his part? Yeah, man, dude, those two guys had their attitudes were great. They got it. When they were given a chance to shine, they shined. Even when the odds weren't in their favor on some shows, they still shined. They made you look at them. And but backstage, great dudes, fun to work with. But yeah, that was the debacle.
Yeah. Well, Victor, I mean, physically could do anything and make anybody look good. He could put anybody over great. I thought anyway. I thought he was. No,
for sure. A great athlete.
I thought he was awesome. Hey, I had a question. Go ahead, Rip. You got something?
No, I'm just listening, enjoying the show.
I wanted to go back again out of the WWE time. When or if or do you remember your dad ever smartening you guys up as kids? Did you think it was real as a kid? And how did that go down? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's funny, the word kayfabe, I heard growing up 1,000 times.
Oh, really?
I mean, thousands of times. Never knew what it meant until I was probably 16. That's the truth. I mean, that's how much our dad kayfabed. And nobody knew that word. Nobody knew how to talk carny. And there was a lot of carny talk that I never, no clue. Yeah, I was probably 15 or 16. Look, as you get older, you start going, oh, he didn't hit him. And you start seeing the blurred stuff and being a kid and your dad did it. In my mind, when I was 8, there wasn't a man alive could whoop my dad's ass. That's the way I looked at it. You know what I mean? And if a guy beat him on TV, if he lost a match, well, that guy obviously did something to him, cheated somehow. You know what I mean? He was the superhero. And so shit, in the South, he was Hulk Hogan anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah. In Southern wrestling. And so he just, I don't know, he just kept it kayfabe. He did, all of us. He didn't tell any of us. And I can remember I was probably, he did not allow us to go in the locker rooms. Oh, yeah. We couldn't go in the locker room. And he kept our mom and us very far away from wrestling because I don't think he ever wanted any of us to get in it. But come on, man. You know the deal. Once you step in the ring, it is a drug. And the addiction is this. I will get in my car right now. I will drive for 5 hours and put up in the locker room and talk BS for 2 more hours and eat crappy drive-through food, all to have 8 minutes in front of a crowd that I've never seen a day in my life. And when you say it that way, I'll never forget, there's an old timer, Daryl Cochran, God rest his soul. He was like a good friend of my dad's back in the day. And Daryl said, when I first started wrestling, $40 was the guarantee. So we might go to Montgomery's 2.5 hours away, 2.5 hours back, and we'd pile in the car together to save money on gas. But if it's a horrible house, we got $40. Now, keep in mind, that was in 1983, so I don't know what that comes out to be today, but $70, I don't know. But anyway, Daryl said to me, Scotty, if I was coming, he lived in Atlanta. He said, on my way down here, if I'd stopped on the side of the road in Montgomery and taped $40 to the back of a sign in Montgomery and came to Pensacola and said, Scotty, there's $40 waiting on you in Montgomery right now. I taped it there and it's yours. You can go get it. He said, would you leave the house? And I went, well, hell no. And he said, but you'll go there and sit around in a locker room for 2 or 3 hours, put your body through all kinds of pain and agony, and drive back eating really crappy drive-through food. And you'll do all that for $40. And I just started laughing and said, every day.
Oh, yeah.
I love it, man. I do. It's the best.
What are you going to say?
It's funny. Butch and Luke told the same story, but they was talking to Elton Owen where we had to make a Roseburg Medford shot in Portland. And he said, they said, Elton, you want to just leave $75? I'll just drive there. Would you, and you're right. He said, Elton, would you drive 4.5 hours to pick up an envelope of $75 and then drive back home? Elton goes, hell no, I ain't stupid. He says, but you want me to drive here and give me $75. And Elton would just go, fuck yeah. That'd be it. Because that was Elton. It didn't matter anyway. It was all around.
Yeah, man. Look, it's if you're doing what you love. Look, this gig over in Mobile that just happened 2 weeks ago, and I'm about to start it. My wife had been asking me, hey, are you going to get a job? Are you going to, I've been married to Rip. I'm still married to Michelle, the same girl that I was with the last time I saw you, but we were newlyweds, I think. And we're still married. God bless her heart. But she'll say all the time, hey, because I still work on the weekend, I still do independent stuff. But she said, are you going to get a job, like a real job or something? And I went,
I hope not.
Why? I've done, I wouldn't love doing anything else. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, this came about where I could be the head trainer. And she went, oh, thank God, you're going to get out of the house and do something you love. Yeah. And you can bring me all the money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done that for 40 years. God dang.
That's awesome.
Do you remember her, Rip?
Was that the girl Arn would have? Arn would have the other girl.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I met this girl totally away from wrestling.
Now, what year was this?
We got married in 87. So I met her in 86.
Okay. Hope she's not watching.
Oh,
Now,
believe me,
didn't Arn's girl was named Erin? Is that right?
yeah, he married her.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
said,
wow.
well, I was thinking Arn married her, and you married one of the other girls that you'd see. Because I
Yeah,
never heard no dirt on you or nothing. You know.
Good.
Yeah, I never heard no dirt. Usually, I was nothing but dirt. So what the hell, right?
No, my wife, her dad was in the Navy, and down here, Pensacola is the cradle of naval aviation. They have the big base and all that, and he got stationed here, and we met, and lo and behold, all these years later, good God Almighty,
Well, good for you.
she still puts up with. She's rode the roller coaster with me. I'm telling you, we talked about it the other day about the injuries that you think are going to do you in, or the losing a job and going, man, what are we going to do next? And then getting another big job and going to Japan, and it just, the injuries are the main thing, because the older you get, man, I tore my ACL on an indie show when I was 42. Ooh. And I'm 62 now. And that knee, I did the whole surgery and rehab and all that stuff, but that knee still bothers me. And and that's just getting up and going to the refrigerator.
And you're looking a young 62. You're looking great, man. 62.
Lie to me, Vaughn. Lie to me, baby.
You look good.
Well, I still work out. I mean, my grandson's 5, and my wife always laughs and says, when we go to ball games and stuff like that, I grab him and arm and wrestle him and front face lock him. And I mean, we're constantly going at it. And she said, I look at all the other grandparents, none of them are doing anything other than just sitting in their little folding chair. Yeah. And I said, well, hey, that's on them. I can't help what they don't do with their grandkids. I want to beat mine up. He's the only person I can beat up. Well, I'm not sure I can do that, but he'll wrestle me in a heartbeat.
I remember when I was going down to Watts's territory, I stopped down, and Brenda was stripping in Pensacola for a week before we went to Watts's territory. So I worked TV, and I worked against Tommy Rogers his first night in.
Oh, wow.
And it was Tommy Rogers, and I was Rip Rogers, and Fuller said, no, you're Rip Randall. So, okay. So I'd had a hair match in ICW, and I had black hair and everything. And then he liked the match so much that he put me on the road under the hood.
Wow.
So I don't know what the hell I was, but I couldn't breathe in that sumbitch. Right? I just took that sumbitch off and threw that. Man, I couldn't fucking breathe. He just started fucking laughing.
That's awesome.
Oh. But then, what the fuck, right?
I think the best thing is he said how sweet Brenda was, and then you tell him that she's a stripper that had a gun. Now he's going to be scarred for life. Rip.
Well, you know how it is.
It tells me that I was right. I really did think she could whip my ass. And
hey, one night we was living in at Lexington, and we was in the apartment, and some guy tried to get in the apartment like he'd scouted it out, didn't know we'd gotten back. Oh, I took this guy and took him down and front face locked him, and her eyes rolled in back of her head. She had one of my Twist-O-Flex, Joe Weider Twist-O-Flex. She beat this son of a bitch half to fucking death. And her fucking eyes was just rolled back in her head and everything. And we called the cops, and this guy was scared to death. And the cop just started laughing. He says, oh, I guess he fell down the steps.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Oh, well, what the hell, right?
Hey, one of our loyal listeners here, one of our members had a question that said, how did you like having the spot with Sting and Triple H? Was that?
Oh, yeah. That was really, look, that was cool to be a part of. Simply to know that I was going to be in the ring and with Triple H in the ring, and then Sting was coming in, and that was Sting coming first time in, right? From WCW. And I remember we had gone over it a number of times. 1, 2, music. And I specifically said, should my reaction be 1, 2, not really give a shit, 3, or is my reaction part of this story?
Yeah. And
they immediately said, no. Your reaction's part of the story. You need to be as shocked as anybody in the building. And I said, okay. And how it ended up coming off, I was really happy with, because it definitely was able to look. I was able to have fun and be out there while two legends in our industry, did something great, and I was able to be a part of it. So for me, it was freaking awesome. I loved it. Any time that again, I started back refereeing with those guys. I was 45, so it was after over 2 decades of being a wrestler. It was almost like CM Punk used to always say, "Man, how are you still in the honeymoon phase with wrestling?" And I said, "Dude," because as a referee, I really appreciated what these guys were doing because I'd done it. And so to be able to see them do stuff off the top and roll through and come up and you just go, damn, man. And now I still at my age get to be a part of it and not get the injuries these guys are going to get. You know what I mean? And just to be in the ring with them, look, to do that Mania with Triple H and Undertaker, oh man, come on. It just doesn't get much bigger than that. There were career high spots that me personally, Scott, would go, oh man, that was a really cool moment. Me and my brother Steve wrestled Dory and Terry Funk in Knoxville Coliseum with Jim Cornette in their corner and our dad in our corner.
Oh wow,
dude! I can only tell you that they beat our ass, but I can't tell you the finish. I can't tell you, but I can tell you right now that two little boy brothers that watched the Funk brothers, other brothers, make such an impact in the industry that we loved, and we got to get in the ring with them. I'll never forget that moment the rest of my life, man, with our father in our corner. That's huge, man. I mean, some people go, oh, come on, it's a work, man. Get over yourself.
Yeah.
It is, and they're right. It is a work. But for Scott, that's a career high spot, man. I mean, another one, I'm refereeing for WWE. You think of the career high spots mostly as a wrestler, but as a referee, one of the best wrestling matches I ever wrestled was Mike Knox against CM Punk, about 20 minutes in front of about 500 people. And I remember it like I'm sitting here reffing it right now. It was that good. And then another one as a referee, Undertaker against Big Show, and it's Undertaker's the last ride tour. We did 2 weeks in Europe, and we were in London's O2 Arena, and man, the acoustics in that place are unbelievable. That's the arena that Michael Jackson was going to do his 50 concerts, and then he passed away before that ever took place. But that arena has such unbelievable acoustics. And as a referee, you get in the ring, here comes Big Show to unbelievable boos, and then the building goes completely black, and you hear that first gong, and the lights are still black. You hear the next. It was deafening, and all of a sudden, I didn't see Big Show. He had made his way over about a foot from me, and he just leaned down to my ear and said, "This is awesome." And I just went, "No kidding, man." God, that moment in time, I was realizing how awesome it was to be there with Show and him feel the same thing I was feeling. It's cool, man. It's cool to feel it with somebody that wasn't a brother or a family member. You know?
Hey, I wasn't able to be in the ring, but I was an extra in WrestleMania 23, and I came out with the Undertaker with the torches or whatever. And when all those lights go out and you got a torch, try not to burn the person in front of you or get burned behind you, and then they tell you have to get off the stage before all the pyro comes up. I mean, it was awesome. Just like you said, when those lights go out and they do that dong, I mean, just even as an extra there it was
well, you're part of it though. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're part of the show, and you feel that, man. God dang, you feel it. Yeah, it's I've been blessed, man. I really have.
You mentioned blessed. Jim Cornette a little bit ago, so we gotta have some sort of either. Were you with him at WCW? I know you were at Smoky Mountain for a while too, right?
Yeah.
I was. Got any Cornette stories? Anything? How'd you and Cornette work together?
So, dude, he's been a family friend. My dad and brother did the whole Georgia Championship wrestling, and he was there with Bobby and Dennis Condrey, and so I mean, in the wrestling business, if one of your brothers meets somebody and you have a good relationship, the minute the other brother walks in, everybody's just friends. It's weird, man. It's weird. Me and my brothers would always say, "Oh yeah, they're good dudes." You know what I mean? Because if somebody was a dick, believe me, we would tell each other that guy's a dick. but
Right.
but look, man, the way I always looked at it is, are there assholes in the dressing room? Yes. Are there assholes in the lawyer's office? Yes. Are there assholes at McDonald's? Yes. They're going to be those people. But at the end of the day, we're all doing what we love. We're all trying to make a couple of bucks at it. And I'll never forget this, Jacques Rougeau and Honky Tonk Man at TV taping, and it was my first year in the business. And Jacques walked up to Honky Tonk and said, "Wayne, you don't like me very much, do you?" And Wayne said, "No, I don't, Jacques, but I don't have to like you to go out here, steal the show and tear the house down and make a bunch of money." And I'll never forget, it got quiet at ringside, and I was a brand new rookie. I just walked away because I didn't know what to think. I didn't know, are they going to get in a fight? And my dad, first thing he said is, "I hope you learned something from that," because he's right. You don't have to like them to tear the house down with them. You don't have to like them to go to the bank with them, but you do have to work with them. And look, my first few weeks of wrestling, riding in the car with my dad, I told him straight up, "I'm going to be the world champion. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." I'm telling you, 22-year-old loudmouth, been wearing my wrestling boots for a year and hadn't had a match yet. I was that guy. And he just started laughing and he said, "Son, you're about 175 pounds soaking wet. You don't have the build or the knowledge, any of it yet." He said, "But I tell you what you do. If you'll learn every part of the business," and I'm talking referee, putting the ring up, selling concessions, learn what everybody does, and then take that with you on your career, not only will you have a good career, but you'll have a lot of fun." Dude, I'm here to tell you, fuck, I may cry telling you, and I'm sorry. In my life, in my career, I was a wrestler. While I wrestled, I learned about putting the ring up. I learned all kinds of stuff because I ended up getting hurt and I didn't want to leave the wrestling business. And Continental made me their ring announcer. And I would go set up all the live events. I would set up the concessions. I would hire people. Everything I had learned on my path to get to that first match, I was able to put into play in my career. Now, fast forward, wrestle, then referee, then be hired as a producer by the largest company, sports entertainment company in the history of the planet at the time. And at my dad's funeral, I cried thinking everything he said to me sitting in the back of that car came to pass in my life. Everything, all because I shut my mouth and listened and learned. And if I had been that same 22-year-old kid and said, "Oh, come on, Dad, you don't know shit," which is probably what my comeback I was thinking in my head at the time. But I didn't. I shut my mouth and I listened to him. And there he laid in that casket. And there I've been able to go around the world. I rode camels at the foot of the friggin' pyramids because of wrestling. I've walked in castles in Scotland because of wrestling. The thing, I get to live in Pensacola Beach, whitest sand in the world, because of wrestling. I mean, man, I could talk all day, dude. I'm like you, Rip. I could just talk about wrestling all day because it's what I know and it's what I love. Simple as that.
Man, it's awesome.
This is great, man.
Tell me about when you did all everything he just said, when you did the ring jackets and the announcing.
Oh, it's like with Ole, I ran towns for Ole. You know, Ronnie West went with me the first week. I said, "Ronnie, I already know all this shit." You know, he says, I said, "But hang out, I'll have more fun."
Right.
But like I'd run spot shows for Ole in Indiana, right? He might give me 4 days in a row to work or whatever, and all the guys from that was on Atlanta would come in, and we'd wrestle high schools because Indiana was a basketball state, so we always had real big gyms and everything there, and I got everything on a percentage. But I would just I was the agent of the show. I got my mileage, I got my per diem. and then I would schedule myself to be the ring announcer. I would work the first match. Then I was I got paid to get the jackets and everything, right?
Yeah.
And Ole
Yeah.
said, what'd you draw? But he said, well, make sure you skim like $300 off the top because that's the norm. I said, oh, you sure? He said, I said, I turned in every penny. I said, I know you did. I said, you sure? He said, yeah, that's part of it. I said,
That's
okay.
awesome.
So what the hell, right?
Yeah. That's funny.
But everybody in the wrestling business has got a fucking memory, has got a fucking story. It's ups and downs. It's a fantasy goddamn world. And if you can just live it for a little while, it's the greatest time of your motherfucking life.
I agree.
And
I
and
totally
everybody
agree.
else I said, oh, fuck you. You're a fucking asshole. I'd tell fucking people. I said, no, you're just fucking mad because I got what I wanted and whatever. And I'm still living the fucking dream one way or the other. You know what I mean? And I always tell people wrestling is the world's worst business. I've seen guys commit suicide over not being a star in a phony motherfucking business.
Yeah. That's true, man.
It's just hard, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Me either, Ripper. Me either.
Wouldn't trade it for anything.
Wow, this has been great. You talked about your wrestling promotion. I'll get that out there. What else you got coming up? You got any fan fest coming up? You said you still do some indies, some signings and things like that. You have anything else coming up in the near future?
Yeah, I don't have anything right. I mean, look, they're gonna, once this kicks off for Diamond over in Mobile. Once that kicks off, they're going to run like the first and third Saturdays of every month, and I'll be over there training. So, look, if anybody does want to use me for their show or sponsor me for one of their big gimmicks, please shoot me an email at that address and seen on the screen there, and let's talk.
I think I have it right on here. Book Scott Armstrong at gmail.com. You can go to Twitter and find him at WWE Armstrong.
That's me, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I'll put that in some of the clips too.
Hey, just off the top of this, what's so funny in your dad in Fuller's territory? You could go there and like when your dad was a heel, he was the funniest motherfucker. When he was a heel, right? Yeah. And you would have these guys against these guys. You'd come back 3 years later. It's the same guys, but all the baby faces are now the heels, and all the heels are now the baby faces.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And I just laughed so hard. It was just so much. It was just so much fun. It was just so much fun working down there.
It was. And the trips weren't that long, and beautiful sunshine. Never even like last night. On the news this morning, they came up and said, my God, it's freezing on Pensacola Beach. It's 30 degrees. And, but the high today is like 56 and it's really sunny. So I mean, outside it's nice, but man, I mean, some of those winters up north, come on, man, 30 degrees. You're just wearing a thin windbreaker.
Hey, you've said several times about being a $175 ring and wet. I tried to find some pictures of you for this show online, and I came across some bicep poses of your own there, not looking like you were a $175 anymore.
It's only because of real.
You used to force feed. You would be sick from eating so much.
These were later in his life, I believe. He was looking pretty jacked, man.
The bicep thing on WCW, I would come out and literally hit the bicep and say Armstrong, and it's literally, and I'm not kidding, it's literally because of Rip, because it makes you look at me. And my brothers, they wouldn't want to do it. It's Scotty, don't do that. And I go, no, man, they're going to look at us, man. They're going to pay attention to us on our interests, whether they like it or not. And if they remembered anything, they wouldn't remember Scott or Steve. They would remember Armstrong. So, and we were getting beat 4 minutes later. So what did it matter?
Well, your dad's nickname, everybody called him Arms.
Yeah, that's right. That's
because the Bullet had the biggest fucking arms I'd ever seen a human have before. You know what I mean?
He trained hard, man. In 1964, he was the Southeast Powerlift champion. He was really into weightlifting early in his life. And so he just was into it, man. And that's when I brought up the name Daryl Cochran. Daryl had trained Nikolai Volkov at the time, was down in that area too, and they had trained together. And and Daryl trained for the Olympics. And so they were serious into that. And my dad wanted to do it, but when you got 4 kids, you ain't doing nothing.
Now, was he a fireman then?
Yes. Yeah. He was a big muscled up fireman.
Yeah.
Oh wow, really?
He probably trained all day at the place there.
He did. And he would, so back in those days, I don't know, it was like 48 on, 24 off. I don't know if it's still the same way or whatever, but he'd get, when he first started wrestling, he had a big, good body. And, you know, back in the early 60s, there weren't many muscle men around. And so it got a lot of attention. Plus, it was the Georgia territory, and he was from right outside of Atlanta. And
Marietta.
So, yeah, Marietta. And he, look, Elvis had a lot of stroke with my dad. My dad had the sideburns,
right,
like Elvis had at one time. And so they started using him. Well, they started using him to the point where he couldn't do his fire. He would pay, like, I don't know what they made, $23 or something for the shift back then. And he would have to tell somebody, I'll give you $25 if you'll take my shift. And so it got to where he was paying people to have to take his shift because he was getting so many wrestling bookings. And then finally the wrestling crew there, Paul Jones was a promoter back in that day, and he just took him aside and told him, said, look, unless you just want to be a fireman, you got a huge opportunity here, and we're going to do something with you, but you got to want to do it. And so he went on TV wearing his fire outfit, and I mean his blue shirt and badge and all that, and retired. And man, you think about back in those days, a big muscled up guy, a fireman. Every child in the world looks up to that human being already. Now he's Bob Armstrong. He's getting wins, muscled up. Dude, it's storybook, and you can write it, but you literally would have to write it. And with him, it just happened. And so, and look, same with you think that Rip, you've said this is phony. My brother says all the time too, this is phony baloney wrestling. So don't get too serious about it.
Yeah.
And you think about that, and think about, to this day, my dad would say it's all phony until I punch you in the nose, boy. And he's right. But I tell these guys nowadays too, in these locker rooms, hey man, nobody out there paid at the ticket office. Nobody paid their money and said on the way here, oh my God, this is all so real. This is going to be real. I said, and when they go get in the car to go home, not one of them's going to say, that was all real. That was all real. I said, our job is to, for at least 30 seconds in your match, take them to that place of disbelief where they go, holy shit, did you see that? That was real. If you take them there, you did your job. 30 seconds worth. Back in the day, you couldn't get away with that. You had to give them something every week. But now, come on, man. You watch it.
Do you still watch today's wrestling? I mean, you haven't been out that long. When did you leave WWE?
So I was released from NXT. It'll be 2 years, January, I think. 2 years. So a couple of years. And look, NXT, I was down there for, I don't know, 18 months. And that was awesome because now at that time, I'm literally knocking on the door 60 and I had a place, you know what I mean? And I could teach those kids down there, dude, I'm telling you right now, they want it. They want to learn. They want to, they're all young, so they got attitudes. Well, so did I. But that attitude you can go to the bank with if you harness it. And that was part of the gig. You know what I mean? I was over all the referees and all the referees they had at NXT UK. And look, it was a lot of work. But when you see them doing what they do in matches and just to be able to go down there and still get in the ring and wrestle around, like Fit Finley's still there. My God, man, Fit could wrestle anybody in the world right now. Yeah. And the NXT was just special. So once I got released from there, I would still watch that every once in a while. I haven't watched a 3-hour Raw, and I couldn't tell you how long. I'll watch for the Usos or something. One of them still lives here in Pensacola. Naomi lives in Trinity. She lives here. They live here in Pensacola, and so my wife sees them at the mall occasionally. And so I look for them because they're P-Cola boys. As far as everybody else, if like my son, he's 29, and if he says, hey, you ought to see this match, or you ought to see this promo, or then I'll pay attention to it. But yeah, NXT, I watch a little bit. AEW, I'll flip over there every once in a while. Everybody's got different ideas about wrestling, and that's the art of the work. It's okay to have different ideas about it. You know what I mean? And look, if you take what you learned in your youth and you bring it with you on the trip, well, it'll do you some good. But if you walk in the door knowing everything, I promise you, it is a long road, and it's not a fun one. It's best just to shut your mouth and listen.
Man, you mentioned NXT referees. Now we got to bring up your protege, Rip. See if he remembers who's been down in NXT reffing now. He was in NXT UK as well.
Who's that? Package?
Package. Chris Sharp. You know Chris Sharp? Right?
Do I
Package.
ever? Yes.
Well, I don't know if he knows him as Package.
Yeah.
No, I don't know that part. but yeah, no, listen, that dude, he and I talked on the phone a million times. Plus we would have Zoom calls like once or twice a week. We'd have Zoom calls with all those guys and all the Orlando refs. And but yeah, man, the goal all along was to get him from UK to Orlando. And of course, it didn't happen until after I was released.
Oh, really?
Said,
I couldn't remember how long he was
a little
there.
Money. But yeah, I'm really happy for that dude. He's a good dude, man.
He started out in OVW, basically. He was, 18 maybe when he came? He wasn't very old.
No, they all come down with Susio.
But Susie and them were older than him,
and
though.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
And Timmy Danger. All them guys come down from Richmond. Yeah.
But I think he was the youngest of all of them.
He was the youngest one. So, but anyway, I said, Package, you're a better wrestler than the guys I'm training.
He was pretty good, right? I saw him at that strip club show, man. He tore the house down. He did some kind of big flip off into the pool and stuff. Man, he was awesome.
That's
so you mentioned AEW too, so we got to get your opinion on this, man. Who's the devil? You got any opinions on who the devil is?
Michael Hayes. That's who the devil is. Michael Hayes.
Michael Hayes. Oh, you heard it. You heard it here first, right here on Wrestling with Rip Rogers. Scott Armstrong reveals the devil on AEW. Michael P.S. Hayes. There we go.
I love Michael Hayes, and he'll know I'm messing with him. Yeah, I have no idea who that is. Like I said, I watch every once in a while. Look, I'm a big
just ribbing, really.
I'm a big fan of FTR. I think their work is phenomenal. And look, back in the day, I'd be the producer on the show, and those guys, you just were guaranteed to have, seeing a good match. And if you bought a ticket,
had him there. I forgot. Yeah, you would have had him in.
Yeah,
WWE.
I produced a bunch of their stuff, and those dudes could go, man. And when they left WWE, I went to them and told them, I said, man, I know there's issues that are office related, and I was a producer, which meant I was in the office. But I said, I hope you guys know, none of that pertains to our relationship, I hope, and I appreciate more than anything that you guys can wrestle, because that you don't see that much anymore, man. You just don't. And so to be able to see those guys transition to somewhere where I hope they're happy, man. Hey, look, at the end of the day, just be happy, right? No matter what you do. Took me a long time to figure that out.
Anything to add, Rip?
I can't thank you enough for being on here today, Scotty, especially with short notice.
Oh, man, come on.
And it was just, everybody's got real lives and real shit that you have to do.
Yeah.
And you just can't, I called him up. Yeah, he said he'd come on, And then I got to get Vaughn to figure out how he can, and then you got to figure out how to push that button or that app or whatever you call that shit. Because I'm not Mr. Technology, that's for damn sure.
That's me either.
But I want to thank you for coming on here. And as soon as we get off here, I'm going to call you.
Okay.
So that's me answering. So I won't answer the phone with anybody. So unless you're in my contacts, and I can't see enough anyway.
Right.
But I know we took a lot of your time today. Just thanks for being on here. Thanks for doing everything you do, and thank all your brothers, and thank your mom and dad in heaven for letting me come down there and wrestle. And
I appreciate it, man. Very
Experience the
much.
Armstrong connection and everything.
Yeah, you experienced it. That's for damn sure.
He talks about you guys a lot. I know that all the time.
Hey, dude, I mean, I was just working in Georgia 6 months ago, and the guy said, "Hey, who would you bring down to Dothan for a get together or whatever?" And I said, "Oh, Rip Rogers would be one of them." And the guy immediately said, "Well, I don't think I know him." And I went, "Well, I do, but you asked me."
Yeah.
And so they brought Rip, so we got to catch up after 100 years, and man, it was just awesome. So yeah, dude, I'm thankful that you asked me, and I'd love to do it anytime. It's a lot of fun. I
Awesome.
appreciate it.
I saw the old farm center in Dothan there. The
Yep.
old farm center. We would do the TV in the morning with Charlie Platt and Rick Stewart. Then the tape would play in the afternoon. Then at night you'd watch every place go out there, and hopefully you'd have a sellout in that nice old building.
Yep.
Hotter than shit in the summertime.
Oh, brutal.
Oh, remember when Ard would get on you about you not eating? He'd call you the human zipper.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Ard would always wait for it to get quiet. He says, I was on the human zipper. He needed to eat more.
He did it. He did it for years.
Oh God, that was just so much funny. That
Yeah,
was just so much fun.
we had a good time, man.
We
good
got
time.
got the memories. That's for damn sure.
Yes, we do.
Makes me feel young again, just for a little bit. But what the hell, right?
One more time, book Scott Armstrong. Sorry about that. At gmail.com for any kind of whatever you want to do. I guess seminars, appearances, autographs.
Yeah. Hey, look, I can still referee a match.
Referee.
I don't think wrestling's in the
All right,
future,
referee,
but I can still referee a match if somebody wants to do a big title change. I'm their boy.
You can count to 3, baby. You'd be over.
Yes, I can do that.
Well, thanks a lot, Scotty, for being
No,
on.
thank you guys, man.
Loved every minute of it.
Yep.
Me too, guys. Thank you.
Peace, baby.
See you, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You too.
I said, get ready, get ready, get ready. I got the dots on. I got the elbow ready, baby. We're gonna see it. Let's do it right now.